My name is Gavin Evans and this is my YouTube channel. So for those who actually know me, know that I've been talking about doing this forever and I finally bit the bullet. I got my lights, I got my computer, I got my camera, and I got my mic, so I'm good to go. That said, I've never, you're literally watching my very first video. I've never done this before. I've never edited videos. I've never done anything of this kind at all. So all I ask is please be patient with me as I figure it out. I find it funny. I got my Last of Us 2 poster behind me, and then on my left I got, well, a poster of a red telephone booth. That's 24 inches by 36 inches. I swear, there's going to be an actual poster on there one day. I ordered it 2 months ago and it still hasn't come in the mail, but when it gets here, there won't be a stock picture of a telephone booth behind me. So I thought for my very first video, I'm going to rank the X-Men movies. Beginning with lucky number 13, X-Men Origins Wolverine. This is the worst one and it's not even close. The editing and the pacing is atrocious. They butcher the supporting characters, especially Deadpool, and it just is an overly convoluted, contrived story without an emotional core. And in 12th place, we've got X-Men Dark Phoenix. This movie is once again awful. If you watch all the X-Men movies in a row, by the time you get to this one, it's like, been there, done that. There's nothing new here. Jennifer Lawrence, I like her as an actress, but she doesn't give the slightest bit of effort here. She gives one of the cringiest lines ever, being like, why don't you call it the X-Women now? And even the makeup effects to make her look blue look very lazy compared to previous movies. The screenplay is a mess, the acting isn't good. The acting is bad. And it's just a complete mess of a movie. And it's got the funniest PG-13 F-bomb. And in number 11, we've got The Wolverine. I know a lot of people really like this movie, with the exception of the last act. And I get it. The last act is an awful CGI mess with these laughable, pathetic villains that... It's just an awful last act. But I don't think the rest of the movie is any better. It might be less silly, but it's as generic as they come. There's nothing remotely special or anything that stands out about this movie. It's a very aggressively generic movie. And in spot number 10, we've got X-Men Apocalypse. Now, the first time I saw this movie, I actually really loved it. But maybe it was because I watched Alice Through the Looking Glass right before it, and it was better by comparison. Either way, I watched this movie again recently, and I'm like, what did I see in this movie? It's just, I said it about Dark Phoenix, a case of been here, done that. There's nothing nothing new in this movie. Everything feels redundant. The story, the character arcs, and it's just done really poorly here. Apocalypse is a lame generic villain. There is one great scene with Quicksilver, but they set up the character to have a big payoff in the last act, and they don't even deliver on that. There's also this 30-minute sequence where the story completely detaches from everything else and focuses on Wolverine. It's just a complete mess of a movie, and yeah, it's not good. So that's one of my least favorite X-Men movies. And in spot number 9, we've got The New Mutants, the newest X-Men movie. Now, I know a lot of people really hated this movie, and it's not as bad as I've heard, but it ain't good. It's just very generic. It's aggressively mediocre. I love Anya Taylor-Joy and Maisie Williams and the guy that was in Stranger Things, but they're not given much to work with here. In fact, they have some really bad accents all throughout this movie. It tries to be scary, it's not scary. There's some interesting, ambitious ideas, but the execution of those ideas just fell flat for me. So that comes in at number 10. 9. Comes in at number 9. My apologies. Okay, now we're at the point where we're at the movies that I like. So from 8 to number 1, I've liked to love these movies. So, and number 8 is X-Men The Last Stand, which I know is an unpopular opinion. Lots of people hate this movie, but I find it to be consistently entertaining, even though it doesn't reach the heights the story has potential for. I think there's a lot more depth here than people give it credit for. But there are some things I really hate about this movie. It's really rushed. I think it could have used more time to flesh everything out. I hate how some characters were treated, especially Mystique. And by the end, so many things that happen in this movie get retconned that's just like, well, what was the point? It's better than people say. I have fun with it, but it could have been so much better. And in seventh place, we've got Deadpool 2. Now, I know lots of people really loved this movie when it came out, but I hated it. But upon the latest rewatch, I actually had some fun with it. I still don't like the direction they took the story. I found the last act to be awful. But Ryan Reynolds is once again great. It is entertaining. It is funny. And Ashes by Celine Dion, which was in the opening titles for this movie, was excellent. It deserved to be nominated for Oscars, and it's such a great song. Like, listen to it. Ashes by Celine Dion. It is an amazing song. It's great. Yeah, the rest of the movie is fun, but Ashes by Celine Dion, that's the standout in this movie. And in sixth place, we've got the one where it all began, and that's the very first X-Men movie. Now, I actually think this movie is a lot smarter than people give it credit for, because it completely subverts your expectations. It sets up Wolverine to be the main character, but then the rug is pulled from underneath, and it then turns out that the movie's actually about Rogue, and it really works in that area. This movie also introduced the great casting of Patrick Stewart, Ian McKellen, Hugh Jackman, and Anna Paquin's also really great in this movie. Now, some of the other cast members like James Marsden, Halle Berry, and Tyler Mane and Ray Park, I don't think are given as much to do here, and there's some really goofy lines, and areas of it feel dated. But for the first X-Men movie, I think it introduces enough of those ideas that I found so compelling about this universe. So it's at number 6. And in fifth place, this is going to be an unpopular opinion. That would be Logan. I know, everybody has this at number 1. It's the greatest superhero movie ever. Everyone else loves this movie, and I really like it. Do not get me wrong. I love the brutality of it. You feel every punch, every stab, every shot. And by the end of the movie, you really feel the beating that Wolverine has taken throughout this movie, and you feel bad for him. And I think Hugh Jackman and Patrick Stewart are on a whole other level here. Like, they honestly deserved Oscar nominations for their performances. So really great here. What doesn't work for me is the whole kid storyline. I've never really become attached to Wolverine's and X-23's relationship. It just never quite got to that level to me until the very end. And this movie definitely ends on an emotional note, but I just wish that I cared for them more throughout the rest of the movie. So that comes in at number 5. At number 4, we've got X-Men First Class. Now this movie perfectly introduces Charles, Eric, and their relationship. You understand where each character comes from, their beliefs, their hopes, and their way of achieving it. And I found that stuff to be so compelling. And I also think that Matthew Vaughn brings a fresh sense of energy to this movie, so it really stands out. Like, if you watch the first 4 X-Men movies, and then you watch this one, there's a different kind of energy here. And James McAvoy and Michael Fassbender are really great in this movie. And I also think that this is the most interesting that Mystique has been as a character. The whole Mutants and Proud storyline is really well done, and I think there's some great emotion at the end of this movie. So that comes in at number 4. At number 3, actually it's kind of funny because I was working on my list today, and before today, this movie was at number 1, but just as I was planning this video out, I changed it to number 3, and it's a strong number 3. Like, I love this movie. And that's the first Deadpool. Now, this movie is so fast-paced, it's entertaining, it's hilarious. It's got meta humor, it's got physical slapstick humor, it's got bloody R-rated humor. It's just hilarious all around, and Ryan Reynolds just becomes this character, and their relationship, his relationship with his girlfriend in this movie, is a lot sweeter and a lot more charming than I was expecting. And I just have a blast with this movie from start to finish. So that comes in at number 3. I really love it. At second place, we've got X-Men 2. X-Men 2 is number 2. Well, sorry, technically the title is X2 X-Men United. But I hope you knew what I was talking about when I said X-Men 2. Anyways, this movie is, well, everything that X-Men is trying to say and trying to do. This is the first example of it fully excelling in. Just seeing a group of repressed people and the prejudice against them and the retaliation that group takes against the rest of humanity, it's given so much depth and attention here, and it is thrilling stuff. The whole way that the last act goes is just edge of your seat intense, and you fully understand every action. Magneto, he might be a bad guy, but you can't really blame him for what he does, and that prison escape scene is amazing. And the opening scene with Nightcrawler in the White House, him just jumping around all over the place and teleporting, it's great stuff. I love this movie. But in fourth place is X-Men Days of Future Past. Just upon my latest rewatch, this movie is excellent. Just like X-Men 2, it takes every idea and every character beat that's in this franchise, and it just develops them to such a degree where you fully understand everyone. And this one just has more of a ticking clock quality to it due to the time traveling stuff. You feel the urgency, and you totally understand why, once again, Magneto does what he does, and he's a villain, but you get it. But at the same time, Charles is given an amazing character arc. All his life, he fought and he believed that one day humans and mutants will make peace. And in this movie, he's got a guy from the future telling him that he's wrong, that it doesn't happen, that the humans wipe all of them out, and it's a complete genocide. And it's just, at what point do you give up hope? It's a very emotional movie, and the last act is thrilling, it's intense, it's emotional. I just think that this movie and X-Men 2 does everything that the franchise has been trying to do, but these two movies does it the best, and the whole unique aspect of the time travel element just gives this movie some extra layer. So that's why this movie comes in at number 1. Anyways, that was my first video. How did I do? Comment below if you want. Like and subscribe. I think I'm supposed to say all that stuff. Like I said, stay with me as I figure out all the kinks behind this. I'm as new to this as one can be, but I do appreciate you watching, and if you do subscribe, like, I really do appreciate it, so please do, and stay tuned for some more videos. Gavin out.